Hi, and welcome to a new episode of the Values Workshop.
Thank
For
you.
your information, the series is called the Vulnerable Me. I've had a series of guests. The idea is to talk about things that we have faced in everyday life, which make us feel vulnerable. It could be anything at all, and the way we try and come out of it. So whatever our little hacks that work for us need not be certified by books or other kinds of knowledge out there, but personal experience that when I do this kind of resolves my issue, or it's a work in progress. Obviously, there are no 100% solutions. So basically, that's what the vulnerable me is about. Before I start asking you any questions, would you just introduce yourself for our audience, please?
Well, my name is Smita Das, and I have spent half a century now on the planet Earth trying to figure out what your purpose is. On the professional side, I have worked with various MNC agencies in advertising field and then also in marketing. And I am working as a Marcom consultant now, out of now no longer in a full-time job. So that's great. That gives me the flexibility to do whatever I want or pursue the interests that I have, which you kind of keep on hold, So that's all about it. I have a daughter who's 25 years old. And anything other than that, I don't know what else you want to know.
No, that's good enough. In fact, strangely, 5 minutes back when I was setting up, I was thinking of that one question that I begin the conversation with. I realized between you and me, there is a very strong common thread from day one that we met at the place of work that we shared. And that is this constant sense of seeking something. We were unsure how to define it, but we had a basic idea of what it wasn't, and it wasn't the material world of sorts. And there was a lot of push and pull because we also wanted to be good at whatever we picked up professionally as well. And that was I think, a strong bonding factor we had as friends. So what is it that the material world or this world as we experience it lacks, according to you, or has lacked? Why this constant sense of restlessness to find some meaning or purpose, like you called it?
So let me tell you that I was seeking something, and I think I am now quite settled with what I have found, and therefore that seeking part is over. Now the part is to kind of build on what you found. What the material world, I think each of us have different journeys, and for me it was, I felt some kind of a void, while I was successful, very with best of the agencies, etc., etc. I felt that something was amiss, some piece was amiss, some kind of an anchoring was amiss, and I guess there was some kind of fulfillment which was looking for. I've always been a person who was more interested in the development of society. So when I passed out my MBA, I was very clear that I wanted to work for an NGOs, or rather work in either social development sector. But I was advised that you should give few years in corporate life and then maybe switch to development sector, which in the hindsight, I think it's one of the most prudent and wonderful advice, because it gave me a balanced world of both. As I started working in corporate sector, while I was happy and I had all the things that you kind of look for in terms of, success, growth, promotions, money, it wasn't making me happy. There was something which was missing. I did try to find it in development sector as well. And I am so grateful that I took the call of joining the corporate sector, because I wasn't happy with that either. So that a sense of peace was missing. I found what the world lacks is a little more balanced outlook. I think we are all running in and I think now, especially with COVID, it has taken a COVID for us to realize that how imbalanced our life is, you know. Maybe you and me were a little fortunate to think it a little, or we were kind of thought starters of the time to think it way ahead 20 years back. But yes, so I think the balance is missing and we kind of overdo everything. So either we are running behind the professional successes, either we are running behind the money, or we are just either focusing only on families. So I think there needs to be a balance of both professional and personal lives, you know, health, happiness, which are very, very vital. You can't have one and the one can't be substitute for the rest of it. I'd rather have little of everything.
It's interesting because I had another question coming up, but your last few lines changed the tone of what my mind was going through. The present generation, the one that is working and the one that is still almost on the verge of finishing their academic careers, lays a lot of importance on sacrificing personal happiness for professional glory. I find that they are willing to work harder, put in longer hours to get that, either that post or that car or that flat or whatever it is that they are looking for. And they are willing to put in hard, burn the midnight oil, as they say. And it's going, I find, emotionally bankrupt as a generation, or else there is no sense of anchoring, like you called it. They are losing their way, as much as I have spent time with them. Why do you think this is happening, or what do you think is lacking in their understanding? Have we failed as parents perhaps to pass on that there should be a balance, or where does the problem lie according to you? Do you agree first?
No, I don't agree with it fully, because while I feel that, yeah, you are right in maybe you're right and it applies to certain individuals, but I also found considerable number of younger people who are so balanced and who have such a mature outlook, which I didn't have at that point of time. Now there are two sets of those types. I'm saying is one who are like, you know, running after whatever they're running after, and one who is extremely balanced, and both come with a stable financial background. So when I also what I feel is that, in fact, I think during my struggling years, I had compromised everything, my personal happiness, etc., so that I should not miss a single day of work. The work commitment was way too larger than anything, you know, way too larger than my health, way too larger than my personal life, way too larger, which today I find there's a departure. Today, I think children or youngsters are more focused and they are not willing to take rubbish just because you're giving them professional, professional space to work in. So I think somewhere, you know, that slave driver mentality outlook that organizations have is not working any longer with the younger generation. That's why you hear this whole noise about how today's younger generation doesn't stick in any jobs, you know, and that they keep moving jobs. But you have to realize that the generation that we came from a deprived space. So we were willing to slog it out and do work and everything else, okay? But the generation that comes today, they've come with certain established financial stability. They come from parents like us who provide them basic things. Therefore, they're building on it, yeah, and they no longer compromise their happiness just because they have to work at one particular place. And I think the sooner the organizations take cognizance of it, the better we will have, better management will happen. So yes, sometimes I feel some of the generation, while this may be true in terms of how they're approaching work life, what I see on the personal side is a lot of I think it's, there's a sense of abandonment in pursuit of happiness and in pursuit of, let's say, pleasures of life. Okay, and I
What
think that is
define abandonment, please?
in terms of like, so they work and then they party, and that partying or that enjoyment of life has gone a little too far, it's gone a little too much types. So what I see is that out of that, again, I'm privileged to associate myself, be associated with younger crowds who are into giving back to the society, etc., which makes me feel, wow. I mean, these children are really, really, they're thinking, but they are very few and far in between. The rest of them are living in a world of, it's like a bubble that they're living in, where there is no sense of purpose. Where is this going? So while they're looking at so maybe during our time we were focused on work, and we had a career roadmap chalked out and said, okay, next 5 years I'll be this, next 10 years I'll be that. Today's generation doesn't seem to be planning that much ahead. But in terms of rest of it, there is no other focus either. So it's not like a personal development is lacking. They're not really trying to do anything with their life outside work, which is something which I think is a problem. And I think somewhere as parents, we've not probably exposed them to those things. They've picked up on what kind of life we've lived, and what were we giving them? We were at that, let me tell you that when my child was growing up, I was working 24/7. So what is it the child is seeing? She's seeing a mother who comes at 10 o'clock, right? And so therefore, I think that sense of balance needs to come in the earlier years from the parents. There's no point holding the next generation accountable when we've not provided them.
I think it's a wonderful answer that you've given, because you covered both aspects. In fact, many facets of problematic situations, good individuals, and maybe I was wrong in addressing it as a generalization. There are people of all sorts in every generation.
There are pockets, and there are all, I have seen children, as upmarket as from Hiranandani estate, who are into, doing things for NGOs, doing things for society, which amazes me. Wow. And let me tell you, during my time, there were hardly any such kids who were doing such kind of work. Today, these guys are actively taking internships, doing work. There's so many people who are looking after dogs, stray animals. Where was that during our time? Nobody really bothered, This was non-existent, but they're doing it. Today, you call a helpline for something, there will be youngsters there. So I think there is a shift, okay? There is shift, but there's one large population who is so not concerned about what happens to environment, who is so not concerned about what's happening to our political system, who is so not concerned about, they just live in that bubble of, okay, I want to earn money, and I want to, I want to just have one good life, and that's it. Rest of it doesn't matter. And it's very hard for me when I have to sometimes catch hold of students who are from, let's say, the best of English schools in Thane, and I have to lecture them about why are they throwing disposable McDonald's cups out right there. And, they look at me quizzically, and I wonder what kind of environmental science is the school teaching if they're not even understanding this part. These are like 9th and 10th kids, these are not like some first, second standard, because those are much more obedient, and I take up on a regular basis. I have a fight with today's, or rather I have a, one word or two with today's youngsters who I see lined up near my society, who would constantly throw beer bottles out and stuff like that. And I said, you're going to inherit this planet in this fashion. Okay. So I think that's something, I don't know where we've gone wrong, what possibly we could have done to teach them.
I think,
And they're all 22, 23. So they're not even small. They're not like youngsters.
They're not kids. I would, because that's a very specific thing. I am not getting into that, but the mindset itself. One of the things that came to me is there is one question, but I wanted uh, an answer from your personal experience, but also a point of view that you have about it. You spoke about a shift that is happening. Like I was just with someone who's a very bratish kid this morning. That's what I've heard from her neighbors. And her mother keeps complaining sometimes. And we do some kind of food dana, and that lady donates her gas cylinder to us and other stuff. Her daughter is quite petrifying to her mother and others, but she is extremely caring of stray dogs and cats, and so much so that I have seen her go all out for some stray animal she had got who had a severe problem, and she went to the extent of finding out what kind of operation is required. A few lakhs were supposed to be spent, and she wasn't stopping at that. She went and asked if there was a way that we could help that poor animal or something. I don't remember what came of it, but just the thought that when you hear a few lakhs, I would have abandoned. Honestly, the first thought is कि यार अपने ही हालत खराब है उनका कैसा ऐसा करेंगे. But she didn't really give up. She went around calling people, ready to pull all strings so that the kid, that stray, got some
As a chance.
reasonable medical attention. And that really struck me as very important. So when you speak of shift, now there are the question that I have is, do you think there's a shift in humanity happening even as we see all the despairing things all around us with war and people being very selfish or concerned about their own bubble? And yet there is this whole upsurge of individual agency taking over such causes which seem difficult right from the word go, but they don't even see the difficulty. They just go all out. And there are many cases like those happening these days, which is very rare otherwise, or at least I wasn't exposed to such kind of people. So on a humankind perspective, is there a shift happening all over according to you, however minuscule? And how does your experience relate to that shift?
So I think I certainly believe that it has been shifting because of the sheer exposure which is available on social media. Where this kind of causes come forth, okay, and gives an opportunity for the individuals to be a part of those kind of causes or be associated with those kind of causes. So one is that. Two is the information is available today, which probably was not there during our time. So therefore, you kind of lived in in fact, we lived in a bubble. We really didn't know what was happening around in the world. While these guys get to know a lot of it, and therefore, also there's a lot more emphasis from the schools and organizations or education institutes about having an overall personality development. So therefore, that there's an emphasis of being assessed on various other parameters, which itself is therefore they're giving a lot more attention to those things as well. Today, they have more music, they have more avenues to express themselves. So all of this has added to a fairly well-rounded personality in a particular way. Okay, I'm not saying all of them are going, but certainly a large number of youngsters are going in that direction, and I feel very hopeful about it. So I feel that in that sense they are fairly multidimensional than what I was. Okay, because they are doing so many things, which A, I was not even aware of. B, I did not have any information about. Okay, C, I didn't have time when by the time you figured it out. So today these guys, and I didn't have the means either. The money was also an issue. Today they're thankfully they're blessed with parents who can give them that kind of support. So I think they are turning out far better. I have seen this shift happening in the last, I think, 3-4 years. The more a number of people, youngsters I work with, I see them doing a lot many different things. Okay, and that's what kind of gives me hope. So there'll be a sizable population who is just living in a bubble, which is also okay. But there is a large number of youngsters who are doing different things, and the choices of vocations also have changed, so it's no longer the three main streams that we chose, and therefore, if you did well in that, and then that's it, life was sorted. If you didn't do well, then life was not sorted for you. So we have today kids who are dropping out of school and pursuing sports and doing something completely different, and somebody who did not clear the 12th, my goodness, to go through that entire, as a parent, to go through that entire thing, and then that person is today taking sports management and is trying to go to Spain and completely do. Now, this was unthinkable during our times, but if we flunked, oh my god, half the stigma was there only, right? And if we didn't, I had to hear for such a long time that I chose commerce as a stream from my parents, that they never thought I would make anything out of my life. If you didn't take science, you either went for engineering or you did science. You certainly didn't have the caliber for medical, but then you took, if you didn't get into engineering, then you should.
Thankful that you didn't have the caliber, because you would have gone down.
I would have been horrible at it. So, so I'm a right-brained person, and how on earth would I ever manage with physics and mathematics? I wouldn't have, but there was no way of knowing then. So I feel is that if we didn't, during that time, if we didn't make it to those streams, then you were labeled as iska kuch nahi hone wala, which is exactly how I was labeled. Okay, iska kuch nahi hone wala. So therefore, I think somewhere once they kind of gave up expectation on me, it was easier to, whatever I did was good enough, So it's a different way of looking at it. But I think today's children have so many opportunities to pursue the things that they want to do. They could be, they are making, and this entrepreneurship has taken up another level, okay, where everybody is, no longer people are looking for jobs. They are actually getting into creating jobs. That's a wonderful thing. I mean, that's what I think that's what India needs at this stage, many self-starters, because we've moved past that whole industrial revolution jazz, and that phase and that curve of growth is over. Yeah. So I see, and therefore I see a lot of, so today there are a lot more digital people, there are a lot more digital advertising people, there are a lot more. So I have a digital manager who's also working as an MC, and she compares shows, etc., and she's managed to square off. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm saying wonderful.
She's managed to pay off a loan in last 7 years by just doing shows alongside. Now, do you think you and me would have never thought of squaring off a home loan in less than 7-8 years, which is what she's earning, because she has a job and she's doing that. Now this kind of opportunity, or to identify that I have a caliber to do this, was also not something that we ever thought of. I mean, you and me were talented, but we probably never even figure out what we were talented at,
These days, I have been told that, oh, you can do this, and I think these guys are crazy. Just because I can crack a few jokes every few lines does not mean I can become a stand-up comedian. We still have those pangs of whether we can or not, because we are half our parents' generation, and half we are with these new guys who are telling it, you are cool and you can do it, and you're wondering, oh, me? That's the kind of surprise I have.
Yeah, she's all of 28, and she's bought she's paid off a 40 lakh loan. I think it's incredible that you can,
truly.
Yeah, and she comes from a non-privileged background where her mother has raised her through actually working at somebody else's house. She's lived off on hand-me-down clothes.
Oh my God!
From there,
it's a true success story.
Yes, and from there to make herself into a digital manager, do things, learn things. So there are hungry people like this also. So you have different. I have one intern from Bombay Scottish who is learning Chinese, and she encouraged me to. So the great thing, she encouraged me to take on Chinese and learn Mandarin and stuff like that. And I think it's. So she's not sitting there because she is now, she comes from a fairly well-off background. She could possibly not do anything also, but it's an individual mindset to learn something new and do something different with that entire thing. And staying with the youngsters really actually opens your eyes to, oh my God, these many things you can do at this stage of life also. So many things you can possibly.
There is one question that I want to ask you here. In terms of Since we've been kind of been on a bit of a comparative note of how we were or what the circumstances were then and now, the opportunities that exist, the sense of initiative the kids are showing. I actually have a lot of respect for people like you, for myself as well, and a lot of other people who came from backgrounds which weren't really uh, pushing us to be our best. We were told that this is not possible. We come from middle class families, so you have to behave in a certain manner. You cannot you cannot even dream bigger dreams. We were not encouraged to
Absolutely.
go out and do whatever the hell you want. I remember 1.5 years, my first 1.5 years in advertising, the best lines I cracked, I did not have a single friend to discuss and say, look, I have today cracked something really awesome. And you had nobody that understood that this is a background that we came from. Having said that, and connecting it back to your seeking meaning or purpose, how do you, I'm asking this question so that you share your story for the zillions out there who are going through the same churning, because it's universal. You have setbacks. You're trying to make a success of your own life professionally, or at least so that people can treat you normally, if not look up to you. Uh, you think you are a star, but nobody else believes in it, and you're working hard to prove why you think you're a star. It's not just arrogance. You're still working and trying to give meaning, superficial meaning, but meaning nevertheless, and it requires a lot of hard work. Within this set of adverse circumstances, if I were to call them, or challenging circumstances, how did it pour back into your own seeking for meaning? And was there any, why I'm bringing it back? Because on one hand, materially we are doing well, but as a society, we seem to be lacking somewhere still in terms of this seeking. It's either given a sacred meaning and or put on a pedestal, and you're seen as somebody special. A lot of people talk to me like that. But I think even when you and I spoke about these things in the beginning, it wasn't special. I think it was a lot of heartburn. You were trying to figure out who the hell am I, and should I be cruel to succeed, or should I take this shortcut to do something wrong and get that seat, that thing that is important to me right now. We went through hell. It was never easy. I think so many times, so many times. So how do you look at this? There is this Hindi word kashmakash. How do you resolve this? What
I
happened to you?
feel,
How did you go through it?
yeah. So I feel see, inherently there are certain values that one as a personality you have. Okay. Now my values were that I will not step on somebody's head. I will not, berate somebody. I will not put down people. Now this is something that I kind of believed in. Unfortunately, to succeed and to be on top of things in the corporate world, you have to do a lot more than this also. Okay. Being a wallflower kind of personality that I have, I actually refuse to like to be in any kind of limelight. I can be as in the background as possible. That I'll be happy types. I'm and but my profession demanded that I was in the forefront, in the middle of that spotlight. Okay, so this is something that I always struggled with, and you had to earn your monies, and you have to kind of do whatever is required of you, but within what is allowed in with your value systems or with what makes you comfortable. Now you have to be a lot more politicking and a lot more aligning yourselves with the top management if you have to kind of rise up in the ladder. These are some things which I consciously avoided, and I'm okay with that. Okay,
Okay.
because so at some point of time I was, but when we were seeking also, we really didn't know what it was not that we were seeking, it was just that ourselves are trying to we're trying to give a meaning to ourselves as to what defining our spaces, and you're actually trying to figure out a space for yourself where you are comfortable in that area. And I think many times when I join places, I tell them that, look, I'm not interested in now, and also about 4 or 5 years back, I'm not interested in any corner offices. I'm not interested in the rat race. I'm not interested. I just want to do my work and go home. It might be very hard, but not many people can understand this at all, because the whole thing is a rat race there. So therefore, you are an outsider there, and if you say so, also nobody wants to believe you. And once you come into it, then everybody looks at you as competition. And you, much as you want to try and get yourself out of it, it doesn't work that way. So what I'm saying is that so eventually you turn to there's things that don't make you happy of how things get worked out around yourself in corporate life, and you kind of, or maybe if it's not working in your personal life as well. Okay, sometimes you seek peace and anchoring, and that anchoring for me, if it came from meditation or social work, so it was for me. But many others have, so different people have different ways of finding those anchors, right? Now, there's a debatable question, but a lot of them find anchor in drinking, and going out and getting sloshed every second day. That is also a way of finding yourself something to hang on to. Now, in long run, of course, whether that how that works out is each person's destiny and life. But so this is something that we kind of look at, or we struggle with. And I found my space in meditation, or in in more in environment, more in understanding Ayurveda. So, and thankfully for me professionally also, those kind of opportunities came in. And to launch certain Ayurvedic products, I had to learn Ayurveda, and that kind of funneled my interest in this whole more than 5,000 year old science, which India is completely buried and looks at Western alternatives. So there is a whole different trajectory which happened with that meditation, with that Ayurveda, alternative ways of healing, life sciences, and I think whole metaphysics, etc., which is a different subject. So, and which not many people want to believe.
So you think there is a connect between your seeking and the experiences that you eventually had, because the corner office might not have people like us vying for it. There are equal number of people willing to give their right arm to go there, and there is so much politics and so much heartburn, breaking of relationships, abusing, a lot of things I also happen to see. So that has its own trajectory, and a lot of them have turned out to be good human beings. And in JWT, we were lucky to have people had genuine relationships, irrespective of their personal motivation to go wherever they want.
But those organizations are very far and few in between. I don't see those kind of organizational structures either.
True.
A lot of it is very, very
genuinely competitive,
abusive, extracts your soul, your blood, everything.
So my point is that because of who we are, I tend to sometimes see that my life experience, my professional experience, even this group that we have right now, the one that makes food every Saturday to distribute, all of us are working people, but we are working at our own convenience. We have no bosses to answer to. We have no pressure of deadlines always. We can manage to negotiate. We are able to do these things. And very often we talk about how lucky we are to live the kind of life that we want to lead. But it's not by chance. There are opportunities that you have to let go of. And yet there is satisfaction. Like you very rightly said, somewhere in between, that the search is in a way over. So the path is almost clear. This is the path that we'll walk on. These are the things that we will do or not do. The dedication is increasing, hopefully, taking us to the whatever we were seeking. I don't even want to give it a name, because everybody has a different viewpoint. Some call it God, some call it truth, meaning, purpose, whatever you want to call it, nature, providence, all of that is equally valid, I would think. So you think because you went through Now, three things I am trying to connect. One is your mindset, that what it was. Second is your experiences with these things that you didn't want but were forced to go through in the initial part of your career, where all of us have to struggle to find out, okay, because we are also overawed by the glamour. We cannot deny the fact that when you go to a place, when you meet these big people that you read
Absolutely.
about in magazines and interviews in newspapers, you're now dealing with them one-on-one, and they know you by first names and you can talk to them. All of that makes an impact on us. So basically, success has its own run on us at that point of time. From there to reaching where you have reached today, where you I've always seen you try to bridge uh, the gap between what you want and also doing the right thing, or at least to provide for your family or your own self. Do you think all of this is connected in some manner, or we make it happen, or it happens to us? What happens according to you?
I think if we after spending about 20 odd years, I feel that 20 odd years seeking and struggling with it. I think because we are this kind of personality, that's why those kind of life experiences have come to us.
Ah,
Okay, and those value systems then get sharpened. So they're
hmm,
there, and then they get further sharpened, and then at some point of time you decide what you will be out of that, right? What part of it will you keep and what part of it will you drop? Yeah, there's, like you said, and you addressed one very crucial part, that the glamour was always there. It's still there. It'll always be there. My work is still glamorous. People love the fact that I shoot with film stars and all. They said, "Wow, you shot with Ranveer Singh, and wow, you shot with something else." And just now I finished a shoot, and nobody understands that the amount of sheer torture that is associated with shooting anything. Okay, and but that's a world which is only a few of them can see, and they think that, oh, that must be terribly glamorous, right? I have also come to one piece I've made with myself, that yes, I'm going to be a part of this entertainment business. Okay, whether consciously or otherwise, because this is where my knowledge lies, right?
yeah.
And I have to be within that. I have to be okay and be myself and not lose myself. So that's something that, this is just an opening that I thought the other day when I said, oh, now, while I've left it and come back and done these other things and done many other things and come back again to the whole advertising stroke marketing background and all that, you've come to the same space again. And therefore I realized कि या तो फिर जिंदगी तुमको घुमा घुमा के वही क्यों ला रही है, तो या तो कुछ सीखना वहां बाकी है, या शायद यही से तुम्हारा कुछ और, यही कुछ और करना बाकी है, right? So
Is it a
if it is
struggle?
bringing you,
Is this
uh,
still a struggle, that the
no,
fact that
no
you have to
longer,
do this? And
no longer, no
is
longer.
there any kind
I
of
like,
hindrance inside the mind?
not at all, absolutely not, because I also know I'm very clear on what I will accept, what I will not accept, what I will do and what I will not do. And therefore, when life presents or work presents those kind of challenges, then I take those decisions uh, pretty calmly, which possibly I wouldn't have earlier. And I do not make justifications to anybody as to why I took that decision, because that's something that is going to be only applicable to me. No matter what I say that's not going to make sense to you, and nor do I think the need to justify to anybody as to why would you leave a particular assignment. Uh, you know, so wherever the environment, the work culture is not respectful enough, you should just drop that, irrespective of how much it's paying you or how difficult it has gotten for you. And I have taken those hard decisions at some point of time. They may not be the most sensible decisions, but those are for my own sanity of my own life, and keep mind. So those are some decisions that you take, and that's a price that you pay. I have seen I have seen some of close friends, etc., being extremely unhappy, bringing out all the unhappiness of what's happening in the workspace into their personal lives, and that causes so much of imbalance
Yes. Yeah.
for everybody, and that's that's a choice sometimes you have to make as to what part of work would you let go of if it's going to be making you so miserable. And during the last 2 years of COVID, I've seen umpteen number of such examples on LinkedIn, etc., where people have quit abusive jobs, abusive timelines, because it's crossed all limits of human tolerance.
Respect. Yeah.
Yes, tolerance, absolute tolerance. I mean, it's like broken down people. So I think that is something that people are doing it now. Therefore, that great wave of resignation that they're talking about is a culmination of all that madness, which we kind of tend to put on for quite some time. We've been putting up with.
Funny aside that I want to ask you. You said you calmly take a decision. I doubt whether people around you agree that you are calm. On certain days, you are quite Ma Kali, if I were to call you that.
When I take calmly decisions, is for in my mind, I take decisions calmly. The rest of the world may not think I'm calm. No, but having moved from agency to the marketing job again, I can say that I find myself fairly balanced again, which is because I would have a work which would start at 9:30 and end at anything around 11:30 at least, okay, even more than that. And it just drove me insane because there was just no time for anything. And I think that is an inhuman way, because I did not even move from the desk that I'm right now talking to you from. I did not even move for for evening walks or anything, because it was just out of question. It took tremendous toll on my health in the 6 months, because imagine you're not moving anyway.
Yeah.
So those kind of things which happened. I think earlier, at least, when you have work, you were traveling to that workspace, coming back, there was human interaction, there was movement to your body, everything happened. Right now, the entire life was just in front of a screen.
Yeah. I think we've covered quite a few subjects in today's talk. One of the comments I want to make on something that you said was that you're back to advertising and marketing, and you kind of realized. I remember there is a spiritual guy called Ram. He writes under the pen name of Ramzu. So he says, you guru hop, you do this, you do that, you do drugs, you meditate, and you're proud of the fact that you can now sit without moving for 1 hour or 2 hours or 6 hours. And for all this, all you have got to show is an improved self. I think advertising and marketing guys, for us, in spite of all that we learn and all that stuff, our instinctive understanding of human beings and this, what triggers their needs and wants, what provokes them into action in buying into the world, which is surprising considering that we try to buy out of the world and say, okay, we need a space which is not so constricted. But that is something that we do as Seva, I guess. Do you, on a last question basis, do you think a good heart makes a good difference when dealing with professional issues, or is it
yes, of course.
Or is it a liability?
No, absolutely not. I used to think it might be a liability, but I think overall, if you have a good heart anywhere, okay, it is definitely an advantage, because you are then taking a decision which is largely beneficial to everybody and not just yourself. Okay. And I think eventually, I firmly believe in one thing: is what goes around comes around. If you it's like spread the kindness, spread a good word, spread a good deed. You just do that and see the ripple effect that it has. There are 7 billion people on this planet. If we just kind of, if 3.5 billion, half of it decide to make life easy for others, just imagine the world, just half of them. That would mean the other 3.5 will also become happy, and you can do so much more with a good heart, rather than what does the other way around get you? Misery, war, which is anyway happening.
True. So I cannot promise you about the 3.5 billion people, but two of us right now, we can share the merits of the intent with which we've done this talk, which is in the direction that we both have been trying to inculcate in our lives. May the merits of this conversation and all the people it touches bring peace and harmony to everyone in the world. Thank you
Amen to
so
that.
much. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
I'll see you
Let's
around.
just hope there's peace and love everywhere.
Yes, we shall. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.